Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the 143. This is Under Review, episode 113, coming at you live. How are we doing today, Nick?
We got a special guest with us today. You know, we like to bring in basketball experts, as neither me and Joseph are one. We've had Ian on before, but we've got a college basketball pro here, Mr. Seth Goble.
How's it going,
Hey,
Seth?
everyone. It's going good. How are y'all doing?
Doing all right. Seth's pretty well-versed growing up in the college basketball, just fan craze. And we got March Madness coming up. When this episode airs, it'll be this Thursday. And so Seth's going to give us a lot of insight, and he's basically going to tell you who to pick to make your perfect bracket. So if your bracket busts, this is all on Seth, is basically how this is working. I'll go ahead and start us off with the stat of the week, brought to you by our sponsor, Andrews Logistics. The stat is since 2000, 18 of the 23 years since the year 2000, a 12 team is upset a 5 seed. A 12 seed is upset a 5 seed in March Madness. Those are normally the ones where you got to pick that one upset between the 5 and the 12 in the first round. So that's your stat of the week.
So your player of the week brought to you from a sport that, you know, it's going on right now and it's way more important. It's got to be Wyatt Langford. You know, he's the most outstanding prospect in spring training right now. He's looking to make an insane rise this year during the 2024 season. He's going to make the opening day roster for sure. As of today, March 8th, he's got 4 dingers, 9 RBIs, and he's hitting .304. So he's just having himself an absolute career year this year during spring training. You know, he's going to be a valuable asset to that Rangers outfield in this upcoming season.
Dude, Wyatt's been raking, like absolutely raking in spring training.
He's been an absolute beast. Everyone was complaining about his uppercut swing, but, I mean, I wasn't worried. He just needed to see some big league reps, you know.
That's good because all our starters are going down.
Yep. Nathaniel Lowe had that. What was that? Oblique. We've had like 3 of those.
Our obliques are very weak on the Texas Rangers. Also, hey, if we could get a TV deal done, that'd be great, so we could sign some dudes. But this isn't
first base. That's where we've really been shining this season.
That's true.
Blaine Krim, Jared Walsh, who's kind of washed, but he made his reappearance this year with the Rangers. You know, known angel. He's been doing some damage.
Yeah, me and Nick we're recording this episode early because me and Nick are taking a business trip out there this week to Phoenix to watch the team play, just to kind of see what we're looking at for the rest of the season. So we're going to go ahead and record this episode a little early for y'all about March Madness. Hey, let's get to Seth, though. Seth's been just waiting to share some knowledge with us. Hey, Seth, basically, we just want to know, like, your opinion. How's it looking this year? What conferences are the strongest? What teams are you liking? All bias aside, of course, as Seth's a big Kentucky Wildcats fan. But, Seth, what are we thinking for this year overall?
Yeah, so I'll try not to have any bias in. As you know, big Kentucky fan, pick them to win the bracket every year, whether they're the best team or the worst team. But so far, major conferences this year that have really been outstanding, would probably the best conference overall has been the Big 12. With the addition of Houston and BYU, they've really been outstanding. They've normally had 6 teams at least in the top 25. Looking now, they have at least 3 teams in the top 12, with Houston being the 1, Iowa State as the 6, and Baylor being the 11. And really, there hasn't been any other conference that's been able to compete with them. The only other conference that's been almost as good as Big 12 would be the Big East, which normally when talking about college sports, you talk about the Power 5 conferences. But when you kind of talk about college basketball, you really get into more of the Power 6. The Big East, you have teams like UConn, Marquette, Creighton, Villanova. St. John's has been doing better. Just overall, heavy basketball history with those teams. A lot of national championships.
Do you actually is this year like with Kentucky being in it? Are you actually picking Kentucky to win it all? Like even no matter what they're ranked?
Normally if they have a good team or I think we have a chance to win it all, I'll at least make a couple brackets with them winning. This year I probably will still pick Kentucky to win it all. I see a lot of upside in them, and it's not
Really?
really yeah. I think the
Like this is in
offense.
the family bracket that like I'm also a part of.
Yeah, I might be picking them in that one.
Let's
I
go. That's
think
an easy win for me then.
with the amount of games I've watched, I think Kentucky has a good shot at least. Their offense is good, and if they can at least just play subpar defense, then I think they can just
Yeah.
outscore their opponents.
Let's talk about the SEC real quick. Just I know Kentucky obviously is looking pretty good this year. They're very offensive. Rest of the teams in the SEC, is the SEC one of the stronger conferences this year or no?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the top 4 conferences. As I'd already mentioned, Big 12, Big East. The Big 10's also good, but the SEC is looking good. You have Tennessee. They're ranked at number 4 right now. They have a lot of key wins in the SEC. They're on a big win streak right now. They've beat Kentucky. They beat Auburn. They beat Alabama. They beat South Carolina recently. A lot of games on the road. And what you've seen a lot this year in the basketball conferences is how hard it's been to win on the road. But Tennessee's gone into some of the hardest places like Kentucky and Alabama and South Carolina and won on the road. And obviously Auburn's a good SEC team. They'll be looking to make a run through March. South Carolina, one of the more surprising teams this year. They've only lost 5 games, which puts them as the 4th best record overall. But their strength of schedule has been a little weaker, which kind of affects their ranking. Obviously, Kentucky and Alabama are good, and Florida's kind of come up near the end of the season with the late season surge, and Florida's been looking pretty good as well.
Who do you have on upset alert? Like, who's a team you think is going to be a top seed that gets bounced early by maybe a scrubbier squad?
Yeah, so upset alert, when you're looking at the past, you saw Purdue last year get upset by a 16 seed. Some other teams, Arizona lost pretty soon in the bracket last year. But I think both those teams will do good this year, actually. Upset alert for me would probably be Marquette right now.
Whoa. What?
Joseph, I know you're a Marquette fan, but they've had 2 key players get injured near the end of the season. And if those guys don't make it back, I could put Marquette on upset alert. I would put Washington State on upset alert right now. I think they'll get a pretty high seed, but they had a bad loss to Washington last night. And I'd put South Florida on upset alert. They're ranked 24th right now, so they're not the highest seed, but they don't have any good conference wins really. And overall, they've looked pretty weak. And it pains me to say, but I'd also put Kentucky on upset alert. As you've seen through the season, Kentucky can beat any team. We beat North Carolina at the beginning of the season, but as you can also tell, they can lose to any team. They've lost to LSU. They've lost to Texas A&M. So just some bad losses overall. So Kentucky's a team that could beat anyone on a given day, but also lose to anyone on a given day.
Yeah, here at Texas A&M, we preach just winning mindset, and obviously like that happens sometimes. Seth, when A&M wins the SEC tournament this weekend, as we all know they will, do you think A&M could make a pretty deep run in this tournament or no?
I think they could. They definitely have the skill to. I think it could, depending on who they play. I mean, we've seen A&M did beat Kentucky at home.
Yeah,
they beat Tennessee, and they also beat Tennessee this year, and they beat Iowa State. So they beat 3 top 15 teams, but then they've also proven they can lose to anyone too. They got blown out by LSU at home by like 15. So I think A&M could make a deep run. Is it going to happen? No. Will they most likely be in the NIT? Probably. Unless they win the SEC tournament, like you said, I don't see them even making March Madness at all.
That's unfortunate.
I'm just going to go ahead and put my pick out there for who's going to win it all. The San Diego State Aztecs. That's who's going to bring it home. I've got some connection there. I played some NCAA 13 Road to Glory back in the day. Won a couple Heismans there as a quarterback. So that's who I'm riding it out with. I'm riding it out with the Aztecs this year.
Last year's Final Four was pretty, if I'm remembering right, some middle of the pack seeds, right? Like FAU was one of them.
Yeah, FAU made it. They were a 9 seed, I believe. And then you had UConn was a 4 seed. Miami might have been they were either a 3 seed or a 6 seed. And then you had San Diego State actually made the Final Four last year too.
Yeah, there you go, Nick. So UConn, let's talk about them, defending champions. They did kind of come out of nowhere last year in terms of winning it all. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. Obviously, when you pick based on the seeding, you don't normally pick a 4 or less than that to win it all. So in terms of UConn going back-to-back, how probable or possible do you think that is?
In terms of what I've seen, I think UConn definitely looks like they have one of the best chances to go back-to-back. UConn's they beat pretty much every team. They lost to Marquette on the road. But besides that, I think UConn does have a good shot to go back-to-back. But you know how hard it is to go back-to-back, so I don't think it will happen.
Yeah, don't you have to win 6? Is it 6 total games, I think?
Yeah,
you got to go. Nick, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, so obviously we're pretty excited for all those little upsets. The Cinderella story that happens every single year. Is there a dark horse team in there that's going to be a low seed that comes in as a low seed and makes a deep run? Like, who's your prediction to, I guess, be a sleeper maybe?
Yeah, there definitely will be a team that does that. A team that I think could come in as a low seed and make a far run. Honestly, I think it could be, well, not really. They're not like an unheard of team, but Gonzaga this year. They don't have a heavy schedule. They don't have really any good wins, so I think that will hurt them in terms of ranking. I think they'll come in at about a 6 to 8 seed. Probably more around like an 8 seed. And I think Gonzaga's looked like a really good team recently. They picked up a key win at St. Mary's. I think they can make a deep run. Another team that I think could come in and make a deep run, if they end up making the tournament, would be St. Joseph's. Now, I don't know if they'll make the tournament or not, but they had played Kentucky earlier this year and actually took Kentucky to overtime. And ever since then, they've been doing really good in their conference. So I think St. Joseph's could also come in and make a deep run in the tournament, but that just depends if they actually make it or not.
That Big East it's pretty much like just college basketball that they're like prominent in terms of the big sports, correct?
Yeah, I think because I don't even think Villanova has a football team.
Oh, I don't think so either. Yeah, Villanova is pretty small.
And then all the others, there's a bunch of smaller schools up north.
Obviously, we don't have the completed bracket yet. We are doing this before Sunday, Selection Sunday, but these are all teams that will probably, most likely, most definitely be in this tournament, and teams that no matter what they're ranked, you should be looking out for. As of right now, in terms of like the teams that are looking 1 or 2, is Purdue up there?
Yeah, so the 1 seeds as of right now, which they should be, the 1 seeds would be Houston, UConn, Purdue, and Tennessee. Which
out of those teams 4, which ones do you think we should take seriously as 1 seeds?
Normally, I'd say all of them this year. Okay. I think Purdue's looked dominant. They went into Illinois last week and beat Illinois on the road. Now, we do know Purdue has a history of choking in the playoffs, so if there was one team I wouldn't take seriously, it would be Purdue. And as much as I want to take Tennessee seriously, they have not made it past the Sweet 16, I believe, in multiple years. It's been a while. So Purdue or Tennessee, I don't know how seriously I would take them. They have looked really good recently, so I would tend to think Tennessee is fit to make a deeper run through March. But out of those 4, I'd say Purdue's probably the least favorite. Yeah. And then for 2 seeds, you'll probably be looking at Arizona, Marquette, Iowa State, and North Carolina. I think if Duke beats North Carolina on Saturday, then Duke would hop up into that 2 spot,
Okay.
while North Carolina would fall more towards a 3 spot. But all those teams, they've looked good, but as you've seen, Duke can lose to anyone. Iowa State can lose to anyone. Arizona could lose to anyone in Marquette. If Marquette does not get their star players back, then they could lose to anyone as well.
So how important is experience, would you say, in this tournament? When teams are a little bit older, they have more junior, senior type guys that have been in the tournament before, and especially like the coaches that have been in that type thing before. As you're looking at Calipari, you're looking at Gonzaga's coach, like coaches like that. How important do you think that is?
Yeah, I actually think that's one of the main factors. And you'll see teams that consistently put out multiple draft picks not doing as well just because they'll get a new batch of freshmen in every year, and then the next year they're starting with a completely different team. Houston has an older team. Normally in March you'll want a team that's anchored by a strong senior guard or center, someone who's played in tournaments before, which Houston has a couple. UConn's team's a little older, Purdue's is, Tennessee's. And then in terms of coaches, I think you're right. You'll see Michigan State with Tom Izzo, one of the most phenomenal coaches of college basketball. No matter how bad of a season they had, if they can make it into March, you always have to be wary of them. Last year, they made a pretty significant run during March, coming in as a lower seed too. So I think when you look at coaches, the more experience they have, those who have been in championship games before, they normally tend to fare a little better than newer coaches.
So I think we should just go ahead and just give our pick. Like who do you think is going to win it all? If you had to give your best guess.
This year, the team I've watched, and they've looked really good in almost every game I've seen them play. It pains me to say, but I think this might be the year Tennessee makes a run and wins it all.
Man, okay.
They have one of the best players in the country in Dalton Connect, and they've shown even when he doesn't play well that they can still go out there and win tough road games.
Before I say mine, I want to make a real quick correction. I said Selection Sunday was this Sunday. It's next Sunday, so that's on me for that. But when this episode airs on Wednesday, Selection Sunday will be coming up. But these are definitely teams to be looking at, all the teams we've talked about. I've been talking about Marquette all season. That's kind of been my team, but they have been losing a lot of these big ones lately, and I don't love to see that. And I've kind of been shifting my mindset on that because of what Seth said. They have two of their best guys out, and I only knew that because Seth told me that a week ago because I was wondering why they were losing all these big games. Because I'm not as probably as good of a fan as I should be of Marquette. But I'm going to have to go with UConn. I just think the back-to-back has it written all over it this year. Okay, I understand how tough it is to go back-to-back. But here's the thing, man. Like, they're magic, okay? This is the year that the UConn Huskies will go back-to-back as your March Madness champions. And you can take that to the bank with you.
Yeah, well, obviously that's like the most fallback answer ever, so you can just ignore that one. But
whoa.
You know who's actually winning it? Obviously, the San Diego State Aztecs. I made that very clear earlier. You know, my former alma mater. So I'm sticking with that pick. San Diego State. They're gonna win it all this year, baby.
Okay, obviously, like if y'all are taking anyone's advice on any of this, it definitely should be Seth, not me and Nick's. But Seth definitely follows the sport way closer than we do. But we appreciate Seth coming on and giving us all that expertise, all that knowledge that y'all need to take. Honestly, if you want to win your bracket, you got to listen to Seth, and definitely probably not us. Maybe Nick's San Diego State pick. But we appreciate Seth taking the time to do this. It's been a lot of fun.
So here's like to end our shows on Under Review. I've brought you a quote from the great Bambino, Babe Ruth. He's just chock full of all these famous sports quotes. So he said, a person who never gives up is hard to beat, and that's the truth. One of the most iconic hitters of all time.
Amen. Seth, anything you want to add before we go?
No, I think I said it all, and we covered.
Hey, appreciate it, Seth. Appreciate your time. And thank y'all for listening this week. We will see you next week with another episode of Under Review.